All right. Hello, ladies. I am so excited to talk to you both today. Hi, everyone. My name is Allison Michels. I am on the Viva Engage product team, and I'm joined here today by two women from the product team that I will gladly pass over to introduce themselves. And we're going to dive headfirst into some really interesting topics about analytics and what is new and next coming for Viva Engage. So yeah, who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Hi, everyone. I'm Giovvy. I'm a product manager at Microsoft, and I work on bringing to life the analytics features within Viva Engage. And through that, I have the immense pleasure of partnering very closely with Teny.
Hi, I'm Teny. As Jovi said, I work closely with her, but I run an analytics team, and part of my team's responsibilities is being a research and development team for new metrics, new measures to put into the analytics features that Jovi is developing.
And I just love this. Teddy, what did you used to do before you joined the Microsoft team? I think it's so fascinating what everybody's up to before they're in this world.
So in my previous life, I was an economics professor. So a lot of that came, a lot of the skills that I developed definitely came in handy for this project. But I'm an economist by training. I came into tech, absolutely love the product world, and so being able to marry the data analysis, uh, you'll see kind of as we talk about it where those skills start coming through for a project like this. But it's been great fun.
Great. Yeah, I think it's really interesting how folks get to where they are today, and kind of the path is typically not straight, and people come from all walks of life. All right, Giovy, what's next? What's new? Tell us what's new in the world of analytics for Viva Engage. I know lots of people and lots of the customers that I have been talking with recently, they're really excited about the new things. But yeah, will you share a little bit about what is new for analytics?
Absolutely, absolutely. So in the world of analytics, we've had conversation analytics and community analytics available for a while. But last year, we set out on a venture to bring to life a bunch of new analytics features that would help people really understand the impact of what they're doing and the posts they're making and the reach they're having using Viva Engage. So within the new set of analytics, we have things like audience analytics, which are really meant to help leaders understand the impact of their posts on Engage. We have campaign analytics to really help people understand if they're running a campaign on Engage, the reach that their campaign has. And recently, we've also released network analytics, which is something we're very excited about. For a long time, we've heard from the customers that they needed a way to better understand the reach across their entire organization. And so now people can do that via network analytics. And so we've also been working on updating the metrics that were available within conversation analytics and community analytics. And we really laid the foundation of changes across all of these new analytic experiences. And we wanted to go beyond just helping customers measure engagement metrics like views and like reactions. We'd heard the demand from many customers that they really needed a better way to convey the return on investment that they get from tools aimed to improve the employee experience like Engage. And we wanted to step in and help them create that business case for Engage within their organizations. So, on our end, we'd been experimenting with this concept a bit already of like helping customers build this use case, this business case for Engage within the organizations. And we've been doing it like in one-offs, kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But we really wanted to make the process of them getting that data easier and more efficient. So we played around a lot of different examples of how we could bring this to life in product. And after a few development cycles and working closely with Teny's team to develop our new metrics and different measurements, we landed on using employee retention as this key metric to help people make the business case for Engage within the organization. I think Teny's probably best positioned to really help illustrate what that process looked like, all the different iterations of what went into creating that metric. So, hand it off to her or any additional questions you have, Allison.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
So this is a really fun problem and problem space to work in. One thing like Giovvy said is that just clicks are not enough to measure value. And I feel so lucky to be working for a company where our objective is for employees to get the most out of the tools that we're building. It's not about spending the most time in the tools. So we were given this like an interesting problem of let's find a way of measuring the value of Viva Engage and then be able to show that to customers on a regular basis. Okay, so here we are in the drawing board of, all right, how do I measure value in a quantitative way? Something that I could really scale so that every customer could look at this. So what we have to do first is say, okay, if we are successful as a tool, Viva Engage, what would happen for that employee? Like what good happens for them? And as an employee experience tool, if you're able to engage more with your coworkers, if you have a greater sense of belonging and connection, if you feel aligned to your leader's path and direction, what we find is that employees are more satisfied with their jobs. They're more likely to recommend their company to their friends or peers. And the way that actually starts playing out is that they are more likely to stay at their jobs rather than leave. So, where along that line is there something that we can measure? We don't have employee satisfaction surveys at scale to be able to, surface that. But what we do have as being part of the Microsoft 365 suite is that we do have usage data. And so with that, we thought, hey, with Microsoft 365 usage data, can we figure out when an employee leaves a company by when they stop using the tools? And so we thought that was really our best bet of being able to measure an employee experience outcome, so a proxy of employee retention, and we proxy it with M365 usage data. Any questions on this before I dive even deeper into it?
I love it. I'm like, oh, so many questions. I'm so curious. How did you, to start at the beginning, don't leave anything out. Tell us how you guys came up with that. That's incredible.
So, the first thing you do when you start, developing something like this is that you just start pulling the data for customers. We do a lot of deep dives into Microsoft data of Microsoft employees to see, okay, is this data good? Can we use this? What do these numbers look like? So just first pass, what we were able to see is that, wow, people that use Viva Engage were more likely, had a higher employee retention rate than those that weren't using Viva Engage. Okay, so we see that first correlation pop up. Well, the second thing we did was okay, correlation doesn't equal causation. It's going to be a really common theme that I'm going to talk about, and you're thinking about if you're looking at our these retention numbers. And so it's okay, well, can we dive a little deeper? So then instead of just comparing, employees that use Viva Engage to those that don't use it, we're able to see, well, how intensely were these employees using it? So we're looking at employees that use it pretty intensely, right? They're writing, they're reacting on Engage, versus those that are just more passive users, right? They're reading content on Engage and then comparing it to those that don't use Engage at all. But importantly, they have an active Engage account, meaning if they went to Viva Engage, it would load for them, it's available for them. And what we'd find is that the more intensely employees were using Engage, the higher their retention rate was. So the highest retention rate is for those that are writing and reacting, then it's for viewing, and then kind of far below that is those that aren't using Engage at all. So, there's more, and so kind of there's more to the story because we're a very skeptical team. It's again, I told you, parts of being an economist pop up in this job, and part of it is well, great, but do we believe this? Is this true? I can come up with 100 stories about why there's some confounding factor that this isn't caused by Viva Engage. It's just correlated with using Viva Engage. So to dig into that, there was, what we wanted to do was, look to see that as companies, well, first, let me start with this. If I want to have a bulletproof case about the relationship between Viva Engage usage and employee retention, I would want to run an experiment. If some employees Viva Engage, others don't get it. Some companies get Viva Engage, some don't get it. We can't do that. We can't run an experiment, right? So we are in the world of observational data. That is, we have to look at the data of what people have already done and the experiences they've already had, and then try to glean insights from that. So what we're doing first is that we're comparing companies that have different levels of Viva Engage usage. That is a different share of their employees that use Viva Engage. So what we're seeing there is that even across companies, and even when we control for factors like company size or industry or location, we find that the companies that have a higher percentage of their employees using Viva Engage have a higher employee retention rate than those that don't or have a lower amount. Okay. Again, like maybe it's a company culture thing, right? So maybe it's, the companies that adopt Viva Engage heavily are ones that, really care about employee experience. They really care about connection and belonging. And, they have a higher employee retention rate anyway. Okay, so let's compare a company to themselves. So the next thing we did was that you look at companies that change their usage of Viva Engage. That is either like a higher share of their employees are using Engage or a lower share. And as that varies, how does their employee retention rate vary? And again, we see that exact same relationship, that as the percent of employees that use Viva Engage at a company increases by 10%, the employee retention rate increases by 1.1 percentage points. Wow. And this is like pretty consistent. Again, it's like you're comparing a company kind of to itself over time as its usage of Engage varies. So, this for us, it's like this building evidence of like, okay, like we're feeling more and more confident that, maybe not all of this is like totally causal, but this isn't just a correlation. This is something that our customers should be able to see and that they should be able to dig into with the data that they have that they could use to supplement this.
I love this. Besides kind of a couple of the challenges that you talked about, what are the other challenges that you feel like you guys had as you were digging into this?
Data is the biggest challenge, and having clean and reliable data, right? Yeah. So our measure of our proxy of employee retention is really just as good as the M365 account data that we have and the usage data that we have. So, we really rely on that. So, if I see that, there's an account and it's active and there's usage, I'm seeing, some signals like it's using Outlook, that account's using Outlook, or it's using Teams, I have to make the assumption that that is a person and that person is using these tools. Yeah. Or, if I see that an account is deleted and, I have to make this assumption that like now this person doesn't exist. But we know that like account management isn't always so clean, right? Sometimes like we just have these extra accounts hanging around. Sometimes even these like dormant accounts like still get pinged by various services. So, they still look like they're active. Yeah. And so really it's like the cleaner the AD and like account data is, the better this measure becomes. Yeah. And, we have some ideas moving forward that we might be able to supplement this with HR data, that customers could choose to send to Viva and therefore Viva Engage, that we could really use to help, make this an even more precise measure of employee retention.
Building on that, and or maybe a little bit different, is there cost savings for any of this type of analysis? Or, as you guys were kind of going through this, do you know offhand, and maybe I should, what it costs to retain an employee, because I would imagine it's pretty expensive. And so maybe how can maybe a business owner or a business leader who's responsible for Viva Engage maybe translate this potentially into some cost savings, or
Sure.
maybe cost savings isn't the right word, but help me fill that in. I know you know what I'm trying to
I
ask.
do. I know exactly
Yeah.
what you're trying to say. So, first of all, anyone that works in the HR world knows retention is expensive, right? So like
Mm.
when someone leaves, to rehire, to retrain is a pricey endeavor. And it also, takes up the time of other people
Yes.
at the company
Yes.
to do
Yeah.
the interviewing and the retraining. So there's some estimate that an hourly employee costs about $1,500 to replace. So you
Mm.
can imagine that, if you can keep an employee 6 months longer, 12 months longer, like any bit longer, and you
Yeah.
don't, those are like those savings really add up, especially relative to those earnings.
Mm.
When we talk about salaried employees, the range is a bit higher. So they say the cost of replacing a salaried employee is somewhere between 50% to 200% of their yearly salary. So it's a big range, but you could imagine that, especially for very specialized roles where there aren't a lot of
Yes.
people in that role, or that you really have,
Yes.
you need to hire an outside agency to be able to find that
Mm.
person, a replacement for you. It can get quite costly. I mean, and then there's also the kind of those like intangible costs of, there's someone not doing this job while they're gone, and um like less work gets done overall. So, I mean, part of like what's really nice about using employee retention as a value metric is that it really is tied to business value, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also tied to human value. And so
Mm.
this is something that like just aligns so nicely where, you know, a company wants it both for their bottom line, but also because you want your employees to want to work for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yes, I'd heard some rumblings of numbers before, but I feel like every year it kind of shifts, or they change, or based on what it costs to retain an employee. So thanks for schooling me on that for sure. Any other thing that you're really excited about for, or kind of want to share specifically about the employee retention piece that we're introducing?
Jovi, what are you most excited about with this?
I'm excited to get this in the hands of more customers, to help them understand how Viva Engage is helping them improve the employee retention within the organization. I think that we're just going to continue to learn more and more from our customers as they use this metric more, as they try to share it more broadly with their stakeholders. So excited to get more feedback on it for sure. This is still very early.
Yeah.
And one of the things I wanted to point out too is that we looked at across like different time frames over
Oh,
which the employee retention might be changing. So I'm excited to see like how people will respond to that being available as well. That's something that we found. Obviously, there's like a higher impact over the longer time horizons.
mm,
We worked hard to bring this in across shorter time horizons as well, so they could get more of an understanding about how employee retention might change across those shorter time windows too. So I think that'll be very interesting. And then also,
mm,
like Teny mentioned earlier, we're working on ways to improve the granularity of the data that we have access
mm,
to. And within the retention metric specifically, we hope that we could get more precise with the data that we show. If we get access to more data like that's like HR related, potentially like seeing more of that org chart data within an organization, understanding the different types of employees within an organization, will really help break down the retention metric even further. So those are the things I'm most excited about.
Yeah.
awesome.
I mean, and
Yeah.
for me, it's like in the same vein of like, this is our first version of this. We want feedback and we want to make this better. Like, we know that this can be improved. And so
Mm,
we're always looking to improve the signals that we get. How can we be, have even more conviction that we're measuring exactly what we want to measure? And like Jovi said, if we have, certain employee attributes, we can show this data at a finer granularity that maybe would help, help with some decision making, or maybe help understand like, oh, this is this is a part of my company that I really need to focus on versus looking at, company or retention data across the entire company. And we have other value metrics in the works. So again, with the same idea, that same mandate of how can I make sure that we're using data to help customers really make the most of their Viva Engage deployment, but then also understand what that means to them and what that means to their employees. So we're always developing new stuff. We always want feedback from customers. What is it that you want to see? What is it that you're curious about? And it's really a privilege to be able to spend time working on really interesting but also important metrics.
Yeah, I love it. I love that your team is kind of saying, okay, beyond the eyeballs and the reach, what is the impact, right? What is the value? What does that look like? Do you guys want to talk a little bit about what's coming next? Would love to share a little bit of sneak peek if you guys want to talk a little bit about what's next, maybe. Would love for you to share that.
Like I mentioned earlier, we have been in the process of kind of rebuilding our foundation of all of our analytics experiences. So, we recently launched network analytics, but we're really going to go back in and make sure that those OG experiences like conversation analytics, like community analytics, have all these additional new metrics incorporated into them. So one of the things that is in development is bringing in some of our like time to value metrics, things like how many people have been helped by a specific community, how much time community has saved. We're bringing those type of value metrics into the community level, and I think we'll be bringing those into some of the other analytics modules as well. So really excited to continue partnering with Teny closely on those.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, and as for beyond analytics, like what is it that I'm excited about? So one is like, as we think about employee experience, we're fortunate to be part of the Viva suite, and we have experts in employee experience and people science over in the Viva Glint team. And we've been able to learn so much from them about the factors that impact employee experience, like what is it that really dictates an employee's satisfaction with their jobs. And then we've been able to think about that within the Viva Engage lens, saying, if we know that these are the needs of employees, which of those needs can we meet with the tool that we have? And which ones are we meeting and which ones are we not meeting? And which ones can we really work towards doing better? So then, the goal is hopefully we can even further help move employee retention higher by just building tools to really help people connect at work.
Yeah, I love it. I love it so much. Anything that we didn't say that you guys want to share before we wrap up?
That's pretty much it. I just remembered one other initiative I'm partnering closely with Teny on is benchmarks. We're bringing benchmarks into our analytics features. That's another thing that customers are constantly asking us about, not just like to understand their own impact, but the impact relative to others, and just better understand maybe targets that they should be aiming for. So that's coming soon as well with benchmarks.
Oh, I love it. That is I probably get asked that once or twice a week of how does my network, my leader compare to others, and what does good look like? I don't know. Show me what good looks like. I know what good kind of sort of looks like on an external social media because I see those go viral, but like for a place like a Viva Engage, what does good look like? So I love the ability to kind of have that benchmark. So yeah, excited, so thrilled about those two. Great.
Yeah. And that's getting paired with coaching tips as well. So when we give you a benchmark and let you know where you're at as far as, comparing to other networks or other leaders, we're also going to let you know what can you do to change it? Like what's going to matter? And we have years of research, analytics research, qualitative research to back all of those recommendations. So, we're excited to be able to help people really make the most of the tool.
Love it. All right. Thank you both so much for coming on and sharing. Super excited for what's to come, what's new, and what's next. Thank you both again. If you're curious or you're interested, check out all the links below, and we hope to see you next time. All right. Bye, everyone.
All right, thanks, Allison. Thanks, Giovvy.
Thank you.
I don't know how to stop recording. Okay, there we go.